Hello, beautiful souls. Rana here. So today I want to share all about the topic of the dark night of the soul, what it is, and how you can go about navigating this very challenging process on your spiritual journey. So some of you guys might be familiar with the dark night of the soul. It's something that if you've been on this path for a while now, you again might be aware of, and honestly you most likely have experienced it before. It's a very challenging emotional period where you essentially feel like your old self is dying and your new self is being reborn, and it can be incredibly challenging and isolating. So I just wanted to say, if you've ever experienced this or you're currently experiencing this, that you are definitely not alone. And again, it's something that so many of us inevitably do experience and will encounter on the awakening journey. It's really not easy, but you can look at it as being an integral aspect of this path. So again, it's something that is incredibly challenging, and I just want you to know that if you're going through it, it's very painful. I've experienced this many times and occasionally still do. But luckily, there are ways that you can navigate this challenging process. And again, just always know that you aren't alone, and there are resources and there is support for you. The dark night of the soul can bring about so much confusion, emotional suffering, and, as I mentioned, isolation. But it's really not a punishment. You have to understand that this isn't a punishment, but really it's just the next step towards your evolution on the spiritual journey, and you are only getting closer to your ultimate greater awakening, if you want to look at it that way. This profound spiritual transformation really leads to so much clarity and wisdom. So the dark night of the soul is a term that describes so much deep-rooted spiritual crisis. And many people experience it as this feeling of many old identities falling away as the new you is ready to be reborn. But again, that process can be very painful. So many old beliefs, identities, and attachments begin to fall apart. And it ends up leaving you feeling really disoriented and lost and confused. You can look at it as a kind of spiritual cleansing process that strips away illusions and prepares the soul for deeper alignment and authenticity. So really, this painful process ends up being a doorway to your most authentic and aligned self. So some signs that you may be going through a dark night of the soul can be a deep feeling of emptiness, a feeling of things not mattering anymore. What you used to feel was valuable and important no longer feels that way anymore. Relationships in your life changing, and a desire for solitude, and overall just this deep longing that your soul has for something more and for something greater. You can also look at this process as essentially breaking free from the 3D mind matrix. Again, it's just important to understand that if you are going through this and you are experiencing these really painful emotions, it's important to understand that you aren't alone. And so many before you have walked this path and know what it's like. You aren't the first and you won't be the last. So as long as you understand how to actually incorporate some of the tools and techniques to help you get through this, just know that you are on the right path and you really shouldn't give up. So how can you navigate this painful process? The really, really big key here is just to surrender. Surrender, surrender, surrender. The more resistance you add to this, the more you try and fight back against it, the harder and more painful this process is going to be. It's also going to feel like it's lasting a lot longer than it should or it needs to be. Practice deep self-reflection. You can even journal if you enjoy doing that. But just ask yourself when you are in a state of self-inquiry, what beliefs are no longer serving me? What do I need to shed in order to step into alignment with with my highest truth? Things like that. What lesson might this darkness be teaching me? So self-inquiry is really key here. Embracing stillness and silence, spending time in nature is always incredibly soothing and healing. Reaching out to people that you love and that are on this path too, especially if they are on this path too, then they will know what you're going through because they've probably gone through that as well. Connect with spiritual teachings to really recognize and realize your true divinity. And overall, just let emotions flow. If you need to cry, do that. If you want to do any kind of somatic practices and movements, do that. Ultimately, this is going to be pretty unique. Of course, there are general guidelines and principles that you can follow, but what works for one may not work for the rest. So it's really important to find what works for you. If connection is very important, then reach out to someone. If a lot of solitude and time in nature, which was what helped me get through mine, is what's going to work for you, then do that. And really, it's important to understand that, of course, this too will pass. It always will, and it inevitably will. So as long as you have that faith and that trust and this just being temporary and it really being kind of essential for your overall growth on the spiritual path, then that's all you really need. And of course, incorporating tantric healing modalities is powerful, of course, because Tantra teaches us to really embrace this kind of physical world and work with the body. So you can use the goddesses to help you really get through this. And a great one is Dumivati. Dumivati is the goddess of loss, dissolution, and the void, which when you really think about it is essentially what the dark night of the soul is. It feels like this empty void. It's this blackness. It's this darkness that when you work with the energy and the essence of what Dumivati really entails, she can really help you get through this. She represents the wisdom found in suffering and the strength found in ultimate surrender. Working with her can really help you embrace the dark night of the soul instead of resisting it. So you can chant her mantra, which is Dum Dum Dumivati Svaha. You can gaze at her yantra, which is the geometric symbol. That's a really powerful way to, again, alchemize so much of this pain and suffering. And overall, doing shadow work. Working with Dumivati is essentially a form of shadow work. So doing your shadow work as much as possible is a really great way to really embrace the essence of Dumivati and have her essentially help you heal. Always understand that there really is a greater purpose behind this darkness. And I know I keep saying it, but you really aren't alone. This process can be very isolating and challenging to navigate, especially when you don't actually know anyone in your everyday life that has gone through this or really understands what it's like. So reach out if you need any help or support or assistance. I do dharmic healing. I also have a blog post on this as well if you wanted to check that out. This is a time of intense death and rebirth. So it's really important to trust the process as much as possible. So that was it for this video. I hope it was helpful. Again, reach out if I can be of any support or assistance. Otherwise, I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day and you are taking care of yourselves and practicing self-care as much as possible. Otherwise, I hope you all have a beautiful day and we will talk soon. Bye.